Really, I could never have imagined ever a more beautiful synthesis in launching this book. Honestly, I wanted to say that in case I didn't remember as I was reading what I had written. It was so beautiful and lyrical, I lost myself in your thoughts. I couldn't imagine a more beautiful presentation. Steffi, you were so close to the book. You gave us such a step-by-step and with such clarity idea of what my book was saying, was trying to say. And thank you for referring to Crystal's translation. I just cannot thank you. I'm looking forward to our dinners resuming, but anyway, I'll get into what I've written now. First and foremost, I would like to thank every single one of you for making the time to come to this book launch today. Your presence honours me and validates the potential contribution of this book. I am so grateful and further heartened to see what I prayed would happen, and that is first, second, and third generation writers and those who appreciate our community stories all together in the one space. Mimi Sophocleos and I worked together. He was the head of the Greek and Multicultural Studies Department at what was then called Philip Institute during the halcyon years of the 80s and 90s. We were based at the Coburg campus, the happiest, most fulfilling days of my professional journey. We worked hard, we worked very long hours, we organised seminars and conferences around Greek Australian literature and history. We took students to Greece regularly, a fulfilling, joyous time, and I really thank Mimi for being part of this today. I'd also would like to tell you why particularly I loved my time at Philip Institute. They were days of open door policies. We would embrace everyone. People could walk in from the street and come and chat to us. Things have changed irrevocably these days, but because we were able to conduct ourselves in that way, our subjects were dynamic because we would regularly, on a daily basis, get input from the community that we served. They were truly a snapshot in time. As I said, we can't do that now. Now there are cards that we swipe to get in and all the rest of it. But looking back, I realise what a special time that was. Raoul, my husband and I instantly liked you from the minute we were introduced to you in Bonagila at that memorable event that we presented at. You are so knowledgeable, you are so generous, and your kind words about this book will encircle my mind for a long time to come. I am so grateful that you graciously accepted my invitation to launch this book today. Now, when I asked Steffi to launch this book, she said to me, I know every single one of you will believe this, that if I find anybody better, to not worry at all, to choose the better person. Steffi's humility is legendary. Well, Steffi, I'm afraid I could not find anybody better than you. I looked and looked, but there was no one. Thank you for your beautiful words, and I speak for everyone in thanking you for the exemplary work you are doing at La Trobe in keeping the Greek department vibrant and strong. These are different days from the Philip Institute ones. It is really difficult to keep a Department of Greek going, and we really owe you a debt of gratitude. Thank you, Stephen. Anthea, I'm going to say this now because after your music people will be crying and no one will want to hear from me after they've heard from you. A book launch is unthinkable without your music. Music enjoys such an important place in my heart, and you have musical talent in spades. But it is more than that. Anthea and I have known each other for decades, and we have a deep connection with our post-war immigrant community, particularly that of the writers. Thank you so much. Anthea is also, she does so many things, but she's also the Vice President of the Greek community, in whose building we are. Now, I want to thank the 5 umbrella organisations under whose auspices this book was launched. The Greek community of Melbourne, and a particular thank you to Bill Apastogiadis and Nick Dallas. Joel Simons. Joel, you may know, is Ellie Simons' son. And Ellie, yeah, I know many here know Ellie. She has done phenomenal things in relation to the return of the Parthenon sculptures. So thank you to your mother, Joel. And a thank you to Joel and a thank you to Jason for the remarkable work they've done today for us, who organised the filming and more besides. And to Antonia Tsamis, who isn't here today, but whose son is, who facilitated the details for this event with such professionalism. I want to thank the Greek Australian Cultural League of Melbourne, and most particularly to long-time President, who needs no introduction to anybody in this room, the formidable, the extraordinary Kathy Alexopoulos, I would like to thank the Hellenic Writers Association of Australia and recently appointed President John Sakinidis. Now, I need to tell you that John and I go back a long way. We were fellow students at Melbourne University in the late 70s. So we are talking about a very long association. Yes. The Food for Thought Network and its founder, Varvara Athanasiou-Ioannou AM, not just for supporting this event, but for another reason. I was one of the very fortunate women who presented at the recent Global Women and Hellenism Conference in Greece last year in Ioannina. At this conference, I saw this remarkable woman, Varvara, stand at the microphone in front of hundreds of delegates, there were around 500, and dignitaries in the audience, and declare proudly that she put the conference together on no budget. That struck such a deep chord in me because we were having some very serious discussions with Crystal, my husband, about whether we could afford to pay for the printing costs of this publication that we knew would be an expensive one. So thank you, Varvara, to you and to many people in the audience today whose passion makes dreams materialise. At this point, I would also like to make mention of 2 very special women that we have in the audience today who have made dreams materialise. I want to thank my aunt, Felicia Leonardos, OAM. Felicia came here as just a young girl from a little village in Evia She has become a major philanthropist. She has devoted her life to philanthropy, and she has done just extraordinary things, and I'm so proud, and in you I see my mum.
Thank you, my daddy. I'm very proud of you, and I know your mom can see you, and she's very proud of your father. You are amazing, and thank you very much. And I'd like to thank all the speakers, the beautiful words we said to my niece, Dina, to Zara Dina, and Chris, of course, and Daddy Sophie, Dr. Sophie. And I was so happy because I haven't been for a while to see you all. And I remember the beautiful years we had all together, and you had such a wonderful time with those guys. There were years and years we start all these clubs, these beautiful things, and because of things change, health, age, and all that. But today, honestly, I'm so happy to see all of you. And I love you all. Have a lovely Christmas, you and families. Peace on earth. And I love what you said at home. I believe that home is when we really believe in ourselves, we find ourselves, and we are happy, and we know exactly who we are. Doesn't matter where we live. That's my experience after the nearly 70 years in Australia. And it was absolutely wonderful, all of you. You can see the peace and the love and the respect. I'm sorry, Captain Ram. Thank you.
I have to also, because you know, Evelyn Leonardis and I are always lamenting, we've spoken to Nick Dallas about this, that absolutely nobody knows where Evia is. And it's such a lovely island and such a dynamic club. And my darling cousin Evelyn has just assumed the presidency of the Evia Club, every boss. So, well, very well. The other lady I would like to acknowledge today, of course, is Rena Frangiudaki, OAM. No, you don't know Rena Frangiudaki, but in my humble opinion, she had the most beautiful, mellifluous voice on radio, not just ethnic radio, on any radio. Her voice is just beautiful. She also promoted all of us. Όλους μας προώθησε η Ρένα μέσω του ραδιοφώνου. And I really thank you, Rena, for that. I want to now go to the Greek Democratist Workers' League. Agapi, are you? Is it? Yes. I want to thank the Greek Democratist League generally, and of course, Agapi Paskos specifically. You are a force of nature, Agapi, and I am so grateful for that fateful day when you approached me at the launch of a poetry anthology centering on the invasion of Cyprus, edited by Yannis Milidis and Thanasis Spilias. And Thanasis is here today. A beautiful anthology. It wasn't just, Agapi, that you asked me to launch an impending photographic exhibition, although even that really touched me, that you asked me to do that. The gorgeous exhibition entitled Greek Weddings Under the Southern Cross. It was the way you framed it. I will never forget it as long as I live. You came up to me and you said, I've read your articles, έχω διαβάσει τα άρθρα σου, I've read your chapters. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven, honestly. And then you said, I've read your doctorate, where you were able to readily discern the credence I give to the working class reality from which our post-war literature stemmed. Thank you, Agapi, for our now many collaborations that have meant more to me than I think you could ever realize. I really thank you very much. I would like to thank Dina Yerolimou and Panos Apostolou on SBS Radio, Chris Fifis and Vasos Zanganis at 3ZZZ, Rula Krikeli and her innovative, gorgeous show, The KK Factor. The Greek Herald is always so generous with their support, as is evident by Mary Sinanidis, who is here today and who always does the most beautiful write-ups. And finally, Neos Cosmos, most particularly Chief Editor Sotiris Hatsimanonis, who has been supporting my events for over 40 years, and to Fotis Kapitopoulos, whose article about this book and whose support of it have been deeply humbling. Dina Yerolimou, I want to thank you so much. Where are you, Dina? I don't think anyone could have emceed this event the way you emceed it today. Your consummate professionalism, your facility with Greek and English, your grace when I interrupted you before, your elegant and gorgeous manner, always, Dina. Dina has been the master of ceremonies for me on a number of occasions, and one in particular during the Antipodes Writers' Festival here at the Greek community, organised under the banner of the Greek community, is a moment I will never forget, and is a moment that encapsulates why I have such profound respect for you, Dina. Thank you. I would like to thank my life partner, my husband, Christo, for the translation into Greek, for the gorgeous logo, and for your unstinting encouragement for the establishment of Sea River Press. When the English version of the history was ready, I never assumed that Christo would translate it because he was working full-time. Christo combined being an intellectual, one of the finest intellectuals I know, with working on the factory floor to support Sophie and I for 25 years. He never once complained in those 25 years.
Bravo.
I asked a number of people before asking Christo because I never thought he would have the energy to do it because he was working hard. But some couldn't do it because they were busy with their own creative stuff, and others were honest with me that it was far too complex, it was too difficult, a translation. When I thought that the publication of this book would never happen, Christo, I think, took pity on me and offered to do it. I think that by that stage he really did start to feel sorry about the incessant setbacks this book had suffered. Christo and I know now you must think we are this gorgeous couple and beautiful couple. We are total opposites. We will fight to the death about who was the most working class of the two. Our daughter knows. The worst thing I think that Chris ever said to me was that just stop talking to me, you're so middle class. I was really devastated by that. I grew up in the back of a fish and chip shop. So given how much we argued about many things, I worried about how we would go about working in such close proximity for over a year. But I kept reminding myself to treat him as I've been fortunate to have been treated when carrying out literary translations. And so I always deferred for him for the final choice of a word or phrase. He is the native speaker, only he knows what sounds best in Greek. And despite his protestations, and he really did protest a lot about this, I insisted he go on the book's cover. And our daughter Sophie, I won't say too much because our daughter is a very private person, but I will say that she has supported us much more than we have supported her over the last few years. We have had a few health challenges, which I won't say any more about. Thank you, Sophie, for your love. For your humour, for your beautiful singing. Sophie is in a choir and we hear her practicing and it's just joyous. And for your tangible assistance with the publication of this book. Thank you, my darling Sophie. And finally, I would like to say a few words about a new history of Greek Australian literature. I'm certain that you have ascertained by now that this book suffered many setbacks. It's been ready for years, for 7 years. The worst of the setbacks was sitting on a publisher's desk for 2 years, only to be told when I rang up that it was not going to be published by them. Only to be told in this manner, oh, no, we're not publishing that anymore. I gave up at that point. I think I cried for about a week, as I knew that to go around to other publishers would take at least another 2-3 years. Christo had translated it by then, and he was just as annoyed and insisted we self-publish. And then I thought, what if I set up a publishing house that actually showcased other writers, which is what I've really always wanted to do. And so Sea River Press was born, the logo representing the bay in Melbourne, the Yarra River, and Almirapotamo Sinevia, which we've plugged quite a bit today, Evelyn. A river runs into the sea, hence its name. Next year, I will be publishing an anthology centered on first-generation writers. Το πρώτο βιβλίο που θα δημοσιεύσω με το Sea River Press είναι βιβλίο όπου θα εμφανίζονται συγγραφείς της πρώτης γενιάς και θα επικοινωνήσω μαζί με τους συγγραφείς της πρώτης γενιάς γύρω από αυτό το βιβλίο. The second anthology will be set in motion, showcasing second and third generation writers. And in a couple of weeks, 50 writers, the email's ready, will receive an email from me about this second anthology. I want to launch that anthology, publish it at very least at the beginning, all being well, of 27. Everything about this book is by specific design. Everything. I did not want a 500-page history. I could have easily done it, as my archive is full to bursting. I wanted something short and sharp, something that readers could read in one session if they wanted, and get a good overview of Greek Australian literature. At very least, the history part of it had to be bilingual to accommodate diverse readerships in the Greek diaspora and in Greece. It was also my homage to my late father's tireless efforts in this regard. Ο πατέρας μου λάτρευε την ελληνική γλώσσα μέχρι την τελευταία του πνοή και την πατρίδα του. I could not imagine the purpose, actually, of even publishing a history like this without a comprehensive bibliography. The honour roll is my show of respect to the many writers who have not published a standalone book with lack of money or lack of some description being the contributing factor. I was never in a book of mine going to allow these writers to suffer the double indignity of being left out of a history of Greek Australian literature. The gallery is my way again of showing respect to the unsung heroes of Greek Australian literature, the hundreds of people whose efforts allowed the flourishing of such an astonishing level of literary production. Over 1,000 books we can never again be deemed as an Anglo-Australian academic who I have enormous respect for said to me, with this book, this literature can no longer be deemed marginalised. These books didn't fall into a vacuum. They were supported by hundreds of individuals and many, many organisations. Moreover, those writers who were not able to publish standalone publications found an outlet for the poems and prose in many of our newspapers, periodicals, many of which are still going to this day. I'm sure you have all ascertained and are praying that I'll stop. I could talk forever about our literature, but I would love to hear the sound of your voices, and I would love for you to get some of the sweets laid out at the back. Please can I call on all the 5 organisations, the people in the presentation, Raoul, Steffi, Anthea, Dina, as well as Christo and Sophie, to please come to the stage for a group photo. Thank you all so much.